Every time a preacher develops a sermon, there are always things that don't make the cut. Observations, connections that just wouldn't fit. There are always extra pieces of information. These are those extras. This is Sunday Morning Leftovers. Hey everybody, so how's it going? This is kind of a weird episode. I'm actually at my in-laws' place, and so I'm in the middle of nowhere at the moment, enjoying some, seclusion, right? Eli's here. This is our black Labrador is with me. Elijah Moses. He's a prophet. Anyway, so this past Sunday was kind of a rough one for you and I both. If you were there, we were in Matthew chapter 12, verses 43 to 45. And as just a reminder, it's just a couple of verses, so I'll read it. It says, "When the unclean spirit has gone out of a person, it passes through waterless places seeking rest, but finds none. Then it says, I will return to my house from which I came. And when it finds the house empty, swept, and put in order, then it goes and brings with it 7 other spirits more evil than itself. And they enter and dwell there, and the last state of that person is worse than the first. So also will it be with this evil generation." And so it was, I wanted to just clarify if there were anybody that didn't get that last little bit of the text, right? So we talked about the unclean spirits gone out of a person. This directly correlates to Israel and the fact that all of the old idol worship and worshiping of other gods with names, right? Baal and specifically, and the Asherah poles and all of those things are gone. Things are better, but they still aren't any better off. In fact, in the last bit, what it's saying is, so that bit can sound sort of confusing, in that it finds, goes and brings with it 7 other spirits more evil than itself. I mean, we could talk about demonology and are different spirits more evil than others? Well, I mean, obviously Jesus is using this example, so that would be true, right? But that's not the point. The point of this isn't to teach us something about how demons work. The point is actually the last half of that sentence. And the last state of that person is worse than the first. That's the point that Jesus is trying to make. Because it's actually a much worse place to be, to think, as the Pharisees did here, that they're good to go, that they have no improvement to do, that they've grown, they obey the laws, their life is clean, they're ready for Messiah to come, right? It's a lot worse to be there than it is to be to understand your weaknesses, understand your struggles, understand the places that you fail, and acknowledge those things before God, and even in community, right? So last week and this week, so trust me, if last week you were ready to get up and leave, okay, but this week is going to be a little bit easier on you, okay? So this coming week, one is going to be our annual church family picnic, which is going to be a lot of fun. It always is. It's a blast. But the text for this coming week is sort of the opposite of what we just read. It's a peek into the importance of relationship with Christ and what happens in that relationship. And so, as the Pharisees here had thought that their lives were all perfect and cleaned up and beautiful and everything was good to go, right? And they were sorely fooled, and their house was actually empty. They didn't invite the new tenant in. They didn't let God back in. They didn't invite the Messiah in when he was clearly before them. And so their house was empty, and ready for the bad to come right back in a different way, right? In a worse way. The person who embraces Christ, who runs to him, who acknowledges him, and that is where we're going to be this coming week, and it's going to be really, really great. I'm excited. It's always exciting to preach what's going to happen this coming week after this past week type of text. So excited for that. Come and join us. This is a really short one because I am, well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, enough said, right? It's beautiful. Cornfields, birds are chirping. It's early in the morning. Sunrise. I know a lot of people maybe don't get to see the sunrise. If that's you, this is a sunrise happening. You ready? Oh, yes. It actually does rise in the morning. If you're the late waker-upper, it rises early in the morning every day. In fact, Solomon wrote something about that in Ecclesiastes. You should check that out too if you want to be more depressed for a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot today. I want to encourage you though from this past week's text. That this is really serious. I read from Isaiah chapter 1, and I would just say, there's Eli in the background running around like a crazy thing. I want to encourage you to take seriously the sin in your life, that you make it a regular thing, right? Like, don't just do what we did Sunday during church. Make it a regular, all the time sort of deal. It is super easy for us to just not want to deal with it because it's difficult. It's hard. It's emotional. And I'm a dude. I don't like being emotional, right? It is difficult. It's a heavy load to have to go before God all the time, and especially if we're talking about sin that just seems to always continuously rear its ugly head. So I know that's a struggle, but it's so rewarding when we can do that and live there, right? Because it keeps us humble. It helps us understand who we are as opposed to who God is, right? And having a right posture before God, I mean, that's half the problem right there. I think another thing that is important about this is living in community, right? So we have what we call community groups here at Hillside. And if you've ever been to a Bible study or small groups, it's sort of the same thing, right? We just intentionally call it community groups because we want to emphasize the fact that we're family, right? That these community groups that we have are kind of our immediate family within the greater family of Hillside, if that makes sense. So, but we have those. We also have people who don't take advantage of that, but they do live in community with other people. I know some folks in our church that aren't a part of a community group on paper and don't show up every week to a thing with community groups, but they live just as much in community with some of the other folks in the church as anyone in a community group. So the point being, these groups or other things like them, Bible studies, that kind of thing, it's not an order in Scripture to show up to these things, right? Sunday morning worship. Don't neglect the gathering of yourselves together. That quickly thrown off text in Hebrews that literally commands us to make sure that we're getting together for worship. That's the only thing that we're commanded to do, right? But if you read Acts, you can see all sorts of moments and times that it's how they did it, right? If you live for Christ, And I mean truly live for Christ. If when you wake up, you're working through your day. Of course, if you're thinking about a construction project or that you're working on, or some graphs that you've got to do at school, or whatever your thing is, wherever you're at in life, if of course you're not going to be thinking, oh, how would Jesus put this house up, right? I mean, of course we're not thinking like that, but every step of the way, like you go, you do a good job at work or at school because you want to make the name of Christ famous. You want to make him look good, not just because you need to get a paycheck or you need to graduate, right? If we truly have him in focus, and we truly are about him, about our Father's business as Jesus was, then we're going to do that in community. It almost doesn't matter how you slice it. You're going to end up living with other Christians in your life very regularly, just because you'll be drawn to do that. So my hope for you is that this becomes a regular thing. Community is something that develops and can be worked on. Living intentionally for Christ throughout your day, right? When Paul talks about praying without ceasing, right? When Paul talks about this idea of sort of prayer being something that just is unending, right? Now we could argue about context in that scripture, but we're not going to do that today. Point being, God is actually, because of Christ, at your disposal at all times to pray to. Sometimes we think of him, especially when we know we have these sins that I was talking about specifically this past week. We have these sins that are difficult for us, or maybe extra ugly, and so we don't even talk about them. We don't even tell anyone about them. They're just secret. We have these sins that are a big struggle for us, and a difficult fight that we're just not sure anymore we can even win. And so if that be the case, you actually probably think of God more easily as the God ruler judge, right? That you would need to hide from, than you do loving Father that he is, if you're a believer. And so I just want to encourage you with that to, I don't even know, man, how much this wind is probably killing this, isn't it? That's all right. We can do it like old school. Look at this. We're walking in between the old truck and the old chicken house. See? It's fine. We got wind blockers all around us. This would have been a cool background anyway, right? So anyway, I just want to encourage you, don't be discouraged by this past Sunday. I want to encourage you to use it as a springboard to make some changes that you've needed to make, maybe, right? There are lots and 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 lots of things that we all need to work on. But my hope is that it was a wake-up call to some of those things that we neglect to work on purpose. So I hope that is something that was convicting. I know throughout the week, I say this from the pulpit a lot, but throughout the week, I just get convicted first. I get convicted no less than you on some of the things that I end up preaching about all the time. I just get to deal with it first before I come up there. So, but I hope to see you this week. We're gonna hang out and spend some time together. I'm probably gonna get dunked. So, the one day of the year that I kind of hope it's hot enough that will be okay. Yeah, we're gonna have some bouncy stuff, some yumminess. It'll be a good, actually, more often than I can even think about. It happens that something is going on that, like our picnic this week, And it's the perfect thing to happen after we read and walk through our preaching text for this week, which is going to end chapter 12 of Matthew. So super excited about this week. Show up, partake in our festivities, and I will see you on the flip side.